Welcome to the Mostly Pod Out at Night. Mostly, I'm Graveyard, joined by my co-host Salem.
Hello.
This is episode 52 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. That's right, 52 and less than 52 weeks for a weekly podcast, because in October, we treat you guys to 2 episodes a week. It's always fun, right?
Sure. So, if you're not us.
Yeah. It's time to get Italian again. So protect those eyeballs from all manner of eye injury, because this time we dive into the eye-popping world of Lucio Fulci, because he likes eye trauma very clearly.
Everyone I've seen so far has like multiple eye injuries, not just one, multiple.
Yes, and I'd say Sam Raimi has a eye injury fetish as well, for people eating eyeballs.
Well, his is more like an eye threatening, not eye injury.
Correct, and we did see some eye threatening things in our last batch of Argento as well, especially with Opera, with the eyelids being taped with needles to it.
Right. Yeah. There's definitely an eye kind of enthusiasm there.
Yes,
but yeah, I would say Lucio Fulci takes it just a little bit further into like, yes. I would say like eye pervert stage.
Yes, not fully Serbian film eye level perversion.
It's close.
Close. Yeah. And we had mentioned last time that we'd be doing Zombie or Zombie 2 or Zombie, whatever they called it.
Sometimes with corpses. An E, sometimes without an E.
The Beyond and New York Ripper. And we also said Contraband, but as we realized, Fulci doesn't just make horror movies, he also makes wannabe Godfather-ish movies, which is the best way I can describe the first 30 minutes of what I watched of Contraband.
I didn't watch any of Contraband, so...
Yes, and anyone that wants to watch Contraband for a Fulci movie, if you're prone to seizures, do not watch it, because there is like a 5-minute scene at a discoteca where it is so flashy and my eye can't. So he assaulted our eyes on that one.
Wow, that's his thing, man. That's what he does.
Right. So as usual, we go in chronological order, except when there's confusing timelines. That starts off.
Okay, now I'm going to say all of his movies have confusing timelines, because everywhere I've looked, there's different years attached to all these movies.
Yes.
It's anywhere from like 78 to 82 for all 3 of these.
Yes.
So I have no idea which one came. I'm like, I don't know. I gave up even trying to write down the years, because I'm like, I don't know what is what.
Yes, to the best of our knowledge, we are doing chronological.
Yeah, I'll trust you, but I'm just saying. I was like, what?
Yeah. And our out ofs, unsurprisingly, if you know anything by Fulci, is eye injuries out of 10. Because poor Joe the plumber, we will miss you. We'll discuss you later.
Joe the plumber had a great beard.
He did have a great beard. I would have done what he did, but we'll get into him when it comes time. So we will start off with Zombie 2, Zombie, the flesh-eating people, whatever it goes under. And we were going to include the, I guess, Zombie 1, if you want to call it, but it's nothing more than Dawn of the Dead. And that's it. Fulci took it and then added some extra scenes that we didn't get and dubbed it in Italian, and there was the first Zombie. So this is technically Zombie 2, and it has nothing to do with Of the Dead series, thankfully, I would say.
Well, I think he really wanted it to be, and he tried really hard, and they were like, no. You can't just do that. You can't just do whatever you want.
Yeah. I mean, it's briefly in America, I guess. So it starts off with a boat kind of just drifting past the Statue of Liberty, past New York Harbor, past very big things. Like we see, I think we can see the Twin Towers in the overhead shot.
Yep. Well, yeah, this is early 80s, so yes, the Twin Towers are still there.
I'm just saying, like, the shots that, this is New York City.
Correct.
In the harbor.
Right.
So, essentially, the Coast Guard or Harbor Patrol is trying to get to the boat. They tried hailing it. They can't get to anything on it. So, they go ahead and abort it, and guns drawn. And I will feign my ignorance of 80s or late 70s harbor patrolmen in New York. Pretty sure they don't carry guns. Pretty sure of that.
I don't know. I can't say that I have any information about the harbor patrol in the early 80s, so I can't make a judgment.
I would consider them Coast Guard, and Coast Guard doesn't carry guns.
Okay.
They treat them as cops on boats. So while cruising, trying to figure out what's going on there, we are, they're going on to this not very big schooner. Like, he's searching above deck, and it's like, 15 feet, and you can see everywhere. Like, no, there's no one here, and someone go under deck, and he's there like a full 360. You can tell like it's been disastrous. There's supposedly rotten food. The food looked perfectly fine, but they had the fly sound effects for us.
Well, yeah, the food looked perfectly fine until they zoomed in on it, and you could see like earthworms. They just like slapped on it. Yeah,
right. Like the faraway shot, perfectly acceptable.
Right. Yeah, close up earthworms slopping all over it.
Yeah. So, they do a full 360, and then all of a sudden, zombie out of nowhere.
He was in the bathroom. He was in the bathroom.
That's fair. He was using the bathroom. That's why he wasn't responding to their calls and their hails. Perfectly fine. Now this isn't before he kills one of the patrolmen. And this is he's a beefy zombie, wouldn't you say?
Yes. He was a healthy eating zombie, yes.
Yes, he was. And there's like this kind of pursuit on deck. Not before though the poor guy is killed. And he falls overboard, and he just kind of goes into water. And I will say this right now. The commitment to people being in full zombie gear while underwater is fantastic in this movie.
Well, there's one guy. There's one guy falling in the water, and then one guy under the water.
Right, and which we almost called the episode, I want to call it, Eating the Shark. Because of that scene. So anyway, the dead patrolman is taken to the morgue, and the owner of the boat is being questioned by the police.
The owner of the boat's daughter.
Daughter. She's like, when's the last time you talked to him? It's been months. Months, you'd say. How odd.
Yeah.
What are you doing on this boat? Nothing. You called me.
Yeah. You made me come here. What do you
right.
What do you mean, how did I get here?
Yes, they were like very accusatory of her.
Right.
Having not been there.
Well, this is your dad's boat, and bad things happen on this boat. Okay. Do you have any evidence that I was anywhere near this boat? No. But that's suspicious, right? What do you mean?
Yes. I'm like, okay, this is like a very, very poor shoehorn her into the plot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least there's a relation involved.
Yeah. Yeah. She said her dad's at Matul, right?
Yeah, Matul or Mattoon or something like that.
Which I had to look it up, is apparently in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be an island like off of Italy, but I guess that was just my assumption because they were like speaking Italian and they looked Italian, so I assumed it was Italy. But no, yes,
I assume I agree. I think it would have been the Mediterranean, not the Caribbean.
That's what I assumed. But then I was like, oh wait, well they're speaking Spanish and they're talking about voodoo. So like, okay, I guess this has to be the Mediterranean or the Caribbean.
Yes, I mean, speaking Spanish with Italian people and a British reporter all still points to Europe, still a little bit.
Well, like a lot of the Caribbean, they speak French. Like a lot of the voodoo people are French.
Most of the Caribbean is French.
Right.
It's only the west side. It's only Central America and the west side of South America that are Spanish. They're actually Portuguese or French or French Portuguese. So we'll go past that, I guess.
I'm just saying they were definitely speaking Spanish, though. So.
Oh, absolutely, they were definitely speaking Spanish. And then we're introduced to the hero. I guess I can call him that. I don't know if you want to call him a hero or not. The British reporter,
Jack West, was that his name? Something West.
Peter West.
Peter West. There we go.
Yes. And then he has to go and figure out what happened. Like, this is this big story. Sure, why not?
Yeah, I guess.
He seems just like he really just seemed like a beat reporter for the most part. But now he's getting paid to go to the Caribbean. Sure, why not? And so yeah, they're trying to. Well, they're investigating the story. He finds out that her dad, which I don't remember what her name, Annie,
something like sure,
something like
good.
that, was studying something on this island of Matul. So yeah, he's like, you're gonna go there, and they're trying to figure out a way to get down there. And like, hey, get this boat. And to me, once again, seemed very much like they are in the Mediterranean, especially at the dock.
Like I said, they're very Italy. Italian people. They're all very Italian people. I guess it's like spaghetti westerns.
Yeah.
You're watching them and it's like, why is there so many Italian people? Like, oh yeah, because this is filmed in Italy. And they only brought like Clint Eastwood in, and everybody else was hired locally in Italy.
Right. Because like I said, I don't know if did they meet them down in the Caribbean or New York. I couldn't tell because
they were in the Caribbean. They flew down to the Caribbean.
Okay.
But I guess this Matul is like a little island that there's no like
map of.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's no like set map of, and there's also no like ferry or route there. So they need someone to like help them find it. So they're like just randomly wandering around the docks as you do.
The Italian docks. The Italian docks. It is clearly Italian docks.
Right, yeah. It's wandering around the Italian docks like, hey, can I ride in your boat?
You need a boat? Yeah. We're on vacation, but you can come along.
Right. I'm like, I'm on vacation with my wife. Right? We're going to go around for 2 months, but hey, come on up. Like, what?
Correct.
Tell them that, Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm on vacation with my wife. You want to like get away from us, please?
Right. No. It's cool. All right. Yes,
especially with his wife. I don't know why he would trust his wife with other people on board. She seemed to be quite the exhibitionist.
A little bit. I mean, we'll get into that part very briefly here. Meanwhile, another British person, and they're talking about essentially zombies. And here's what I will really get into this part right now, is we discuss this offline, and we'll discuss it here, is, typically zombies, especially now I know this is the Caribbean, it's voodoo, right? Zombies were always voodoo. In the Louisiana voodoo, in this area, voodoo creates zombies, which is the typical thing until George Romero came out with Night of the Living Dead, where they became flesh-eating zombies, right? These zombies are caused by voodoo and eat flesh. I've never seen that combination of two different worlds of zombies combined like that.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if it's like if Fulci misunderstood like the zombie thing and just kind of just did his own thing, whatever it is. Yeah, you very rarely see those two mixed together. It's one or the other. Zombies that are flesh eating, but there's no real explanation behind it. And then your voodoo zombies, which are mostly like slaves. You know, they're not like flesh eating people. They're just like, they make them like, you know, kind of brain deady.
They're
slaves.
Essentially lobotomized people that have no free will.
Right.
Yeah.
So, there's usually a clear line between them. And this one is like they mix them together. But they never do show you like how they started or like what happened to create it. They're just saying that they're doing voodoo. That's literally, it's like they tell people say off-screen voodoo things are happening.
Right.
And that's it. That's all we get. We don't see what
the locals are doing voodoo. And then the curse is then passed by being bitten by zombies, which is how zombies are created in the flesh-eating zombies. And I never heard of a curse of voodoo that is unhastily or like that uncontrolled.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what was going on there.
Right. So I don't know. But it's an interesting mashup. It's like in 1979. He's like Googled zombie. He's like, there's a movie from 1943 called White Zombie, and that's voodoo. Hey, there's a movie 10 years previously about flesh-eating zombies. They're the same thing. And done.
Right.
Regardless, though, like I said, it's pretty interesting to see that. And, you know, I've always discussed this. We've discussed this before, zombies. Lots. I discussed this with lots of people, too, is that you have the classic and then you have the modern. The more modern being the fast zombies now, but regardless. Anyway, you know, doctors seeing like essentially everyone's dying in the hospital on this unmapped island. Right?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, before like this all happens, yeah, zombies are definitely on the island. Zombies are definitely killing people on the island, right?
Yes.
The doctor's been dealing with this day and night, and he leaves his wife at home alone.
Yes.
Just clarify that point. Like, yes. Good job, dude.
Right. He's like, I have to stay with them. And we find out later on, his way of curing them is, oh, they're dead. Oh, shoot them in the head. Next patient.
Yeah, before tying a sheet around their head with a rope and then shooting them in the head.
Correct. Anyway,
solid medical plan.
Yes, the two white people on the island, one of them was being left alone in her house, and she literally gets eaten by zombies. But not before we get our Fulci moment of zombie bursting through the wood and then slowly drags her eye into a shard of wood. Now, she could have just turned her head and not have get her eye clearly gouged out by a piece of wood.
Yeah, but I mean, when we say Fulci does like eye injuries, like this is like a full prosthetic of like the wood going into the eyeball all the way into like the fake skull. I mean, this is like an extended eye gouge scene.
Yes.
Not quick. It doesn't cut away before it goes into the eye like it normally does. No, this is all in.
Yeah. Fulci likes tearing those eyes out any way he can.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good time.
But decent practical effects, gotta say.
Yeah.
So anyway, that happens. You know, doctors killing people as they're zombies. Anyway, then, you know, the married couple and people are like, you'll never find this island here. Oh, by the way, this looks a good place to take some photos. Hey, wife, why don't you go take some photos? She goes, cool. And then proceeds to be wearing barely anything because she has no top, a G-string bikini bottom, and a hairnet to go scuba diving.
Yep.
All the while she's getting naked, the British guy, Peter, just full on staring at her. Not even
okay.
Like bashfully.
Don't you think like the scuba tank would like chafe your skin if you were just wearing it over like nothing?
Yes, the straps would absolutely destroy your skin.
That's like I was like, this has got to be uncomfortable. Like she's doing this on purpose, and the dude, knowing that his wife does this, is okay with bringing guests on board. And the boat is a little boat. It's not a big boat.
Yes.
I don't know. And they're like, oh, we could be out here for a month. Like, you're okay with two people you don't know being on a boat with you and your exhibitionist wife for a month?
Yes.
I don't think that's.
Meanwhile, while she's taking pictures and there's sharks, And she just kind of like hides from the shark while she's hiding from the shark. Oh, a zombie underwater.
Yeah.
And she
the zombie has like, I don't know if it's like latex or like some kind of like plastic mask that they have on it, but it's like the way that he's wearing it, like you see, it looks like his skin is just kind of like floating in the water around him.
Which is fair for a waterlogged skin.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was an interesting effect the way that they did it. Is they just like made it like the skin was like loose and just kind of like flapping off of his face.
Right. Anyway, she gets away from the zombie, and then the shark attacks the zombie, and we have a zombie shark battle where the shark is biting the guy's arm, but he decides to just rip a chunk out of the shark, and the shark doesn't seem to care, and he starts eating the shark and proceeds to fight the shark more.
Yeah, it's like an extended shark fight scene. It goes on for probably longer than it should.
Yes.
And then they're just done. And then and then the shark like charges the boat.
Yes.
And breaks the drive shaft, apparently. I think that's
something like that.
I don't know how that happened, but yes.
Yeah. And then they after that's done, they look up like, hey, there's the island. You didn't move.
No,
they didn't move anywhere.
They didn't move anywhere. Well, I guess they were all too busy staring at the top of his wife.
I'm like, oh, it's right there. How convenient. Yeah, it is. Eventually, they get there, and they are bringing there, and the doctor's like, hey, I'm the doctor. We need to do this. Hey, can you go check on my wife for me? Meanwhile, the doctor's going around just shooting people in the head because he's going to his patient has a mass grave. Yeah, and he goes to the mansion and they see arguably one of probably the most costly shots where they open the door and they see the wife being just eaten by like 6 zombies, like many pieces of her. They just kind of like, nope.
just slowly shut the door and just turn around.
Right. But then the zombies do eventually see them. They do fight them off with I don't know what, everything.
Yeah, they're just using like
pieces of metal,
wood and stuff. Yeah, it's like they don't have any real weapons.
Correct. Somehow they escape.
Well, they get back in the Jeep and they're driving back, and of course, the Jeep flies off of the road and crashes.
Because of a zombie.
Right,
the zombie's not going to hurt your car, man.
Right, just keep going.
He's just going to explode.
Yeah. So then they land in a graveyard.
Yes.
Which was like a conquistador graveyard. Which is like
the European,
like a conquistador, like those were like what? I mean, at least 400-500 years ago.
Yeah,
and they like come out of the ground, and they're looking surprisingly well for being 500 years old. They still have a lot of flesh on them and stuff.
It's the Caribbean, you don't age.
Yeah, so they come out with a whole lot of worms in their eyes and stuff.
Yes.
And then poor topless wife gets attacked.
Her throat just like bitten through.
Right.
Yeah, so imagine that. More things are animating. And that's where they get the explanation that the doctor's like, oh, they're rising because of a voodoo curse that he's been trying to stop. How he's trying to stop it, I don't know, because I don't think stopping a curse is waiting until they're dead and then shooting them in the head.
Yeah, like the only thing he was doing is he was like giving them some kind of IV, but like I don't know why he would think that would stop a voodoo curse. I don't know. This guy's whole plan was bad. He had a bad plan from the very start.
Yes. Essentially then all the zombies come back to life, reanimating, and they just start setting things on fire and shooting. Let's see here.
Because basically when they get back to him and they tell him, what's going on, he's like, "Oh, what happened to my wife?" And they're just like,
yeah.
and he just goes, "Oh, okay, I get it." But at that point, that like they make it to the hospital finally, like The dude
Right.
is injured. The one dude is injured.
The
Peter,
British guy, yeah, from
his foot is injured.
stupidly
doctor,
driving off the road after
Right.
hitting a zombie. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So the doctor like fixes his foot, and then at that point they like lock the hospital down because that all the rest of the zombies have now found them.
Right.
And then this is the big now standoff. So where the doctor goes in the back, and of course, as all doctors do, well, and all doctors in Fulci movies have weapons and guns in their desk
As you
and in
do.
their office. Yeah.
As you do.
As medical professionals are required to carry, guns in their office.
Yes.
So yeah, he goes back and gets a shotgun and brings it back out. The one guy had a rifle from his boat, and then I think the doctor also had a handgun.
Yes.
So then, yeah, they have like a big standoff with the zombies, fighting them. But again, they're very slow learners. Like they shoot them in the body a whole bunch of times before they finally realize to shoot them in the head will work better.
Well, this sounds familiar from another movie.
Yeah, exactly. And then the doctor goes, "Oh, I got to go back in my office for some stupid reason," and then he gets killed.
Right.
And so then they're like, "Okay, well, we'll get out there. We'll work our way out." So like, as they're coming in, they eventually like leave out through like a back door, but they light the whole place on fire when they're leaving. So like that's supposed to kill all the zombies.
That's how you stop a curse. Fire.
Right. Exactly. Then he goes outside, and then the topless wife is there, and she kills
the husband. Oh, she bites the husband, but he dies in the boat on the way back.
Oh, well, okay, yeah. So yeah,
and then locked. Then he's locked in the boat. But as they get back to New York, because it's just such a short trip.
Apparently, it is. Yeah,
from the Caribbean to New York City, we're talking what 2,000 miles on a boat.
Well, on a boat with, as they say, a broken drive shaft that they can't push too hard or it'll snap.
Correct.
So they're going like half this boat's speed, right?
Yes.
It would take them like 6 months to get there.
No way. The husband, not a zombie, but had to get to New York.
Well, he was a zombie after like a day.
Yeah. But it doesn't matter because they're back in New York and the city's under attack from zombies because of the initial guy in the boat. It kind of ended the same way it began, both people on the boat.
Right.
End of movie.
Yep.
I'll just go into my first thoughts. I had never seen this movie before. Have you?
Yeah. This is what I saw. I went through a period of time. It was weird. It was a while ago, probably at least over a decade ago, where I was trying to watch like all of the like known zombie movies.
Okay.
And so this one is a pretty famous zombie movie. So like this ended up in my kind of orbit, and I did watch it at this time. This is the only one of these I've seen, but yeah, this one I have seen.
Oh, there's like 2 more after this. the zombie franchise,
right?
First being, Dawn of the Dead. But I don't know what I was expecting, honestly. I mean, I could see Fulci's inspiration from George Romero stuff. I mean, clearly he thought, hey, if he could do it, I can do it.
Well, the funny part is he basically followed Romero's like makeup tricks for making zombies, but I don't think he realized that that's how you do it in black and white, and that's not how you do it in color. So like basically he was making them look like zombies by just like painting them and making them look pale, but you could clearly tell it was just like white or yellow paint.
Yes.
They're like painted all over their body. It was classy.
But practical effects were pretty decent.
No, I'm not saying it wasn't that bad. It was, I don't know what he was thinking with this. This is the zombie design, but
yeah,
so that's what it is.
And kind of like I saw with Argento is I'm surprised it took me this long to see this movie for the first time, knowing that it existed for years. I wish I had watched this growing up, honestly. For some reason, I just didn't watch a lot of zombie movies growing up. I was more into the slashers because that was kind of what was there. Zombies, it kind of died down for the most part by the time I got into horror movies.
Well, I like the zombie movies because I like post-apocalyptic movies, and most zombie movies kind of flow into that post-apocalyptic realm. So like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of crossover there. So yeah, I've seen probably more zombie movies than any other kind. Well, probably not now, but back in the old days.
So what are your first thoughts on this? You watched it however many years ago and a rewatch.
I mean, it was interesting. I mean, it's obviously an older movie, and at that time, I was watching a lot of modern zombie movies because that's when I was looking at lists of movies to watch. Yeah, I was like watching all those, and then I'm watching this, and it was definitely a throwback. And there's obviously older, obviously less effects. There's no CGI back then, stuff like that. But I mean, they still did a fun job. There's still a lot of shocking moments in this that they really don't have a match of in all those other movies I was watching. Like that eye scene. There's nothing like that eye scene in any other zombie movies in the genre. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, there was definitely an interesting spin on it. But, yeah, it was a little, it's a little cheesy, but it's, it definitely has its own flavor, too.
I mean, did you think about the whole voodoo zombie thing when you watched it the first time?
No.
Okay.
I didn't care at all. I was just it was zombies. I'm like, yeah, whatever, it's zombies. Like, I know zombies.
All right. Well, why don't you start off with your highlights then?
Highlights for this one, yeah, like we said, the gore and the effects it's obviously fake. I mean, it's not like, great. The blood is like very, very red,
Yes.
As a lot of Italian horror, especially around this time period, it's very, very red, like red paint red.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, like I said, that eye scene was like, it's like genuinely disturbing. Like, I don't want to watch that, like, like you can feel it like going into the eye. Like usually they cut away or they stop right before it gets to that point, or they'll cut away and then show it all the way in, like they don't show it slowly slicing into the eye. Like they had a prosthetic.
They don't show the penetration.
Right. Yeah. They show, there's a prosthetic that literally has like the lens and everything in it, like the eyeball goo and everything. And the piece of wood goes in there and pierces it and starts like, spewing. Oh man, it was like, it's graphic.
Yes.
And it's, like I said, that's the kind of flavor that this has versus a lot of the other stuff. I mean, Romero has his own fun things. I think my favorite one is the Dawn of the Dead, like head explosion.
Yeah.
Which is literally a watermelon. Like if you pause the film right before he shoots, it is a watermelon carved to look like a head.
Yes.
And they just blow it up. That's all it is. It's fantastic. But yeah, it's about at that same like level. But it's again, that's just interesting to see. Yeah, the doctor keeping guns in his office was fantastic. It's like it's a zombie movie where at least they had guns to fight back with. There's a lot of zombie movies that when they get trapped, they have like no weapons at all. And it's just fun to see that the doctor had not one, but two weapons.
I want to stop this curse with my guns.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Okay. And as we'll see in all the other movies, like all the doctors have guns on them at all times. But yeah, I like that a lot, and I also like the ending. I mean, because it's a bad ending, right? It's like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they finally get out, they finally like survive, and they find out, the whole world is like, it's not just that little island; it's the whole world is now destroyed.
Yes, and it's funny because that boat drifted from Matul from the Caribbean and hit nothing until it
right. Yeah, exactly. Like it's somehow managed to get into the harbor.
Yes,
to go perfectly past everything without hitting anybody. Yeah,
yeah,
miracle. Like they would have called, like, "Hey, there's a boat with no driver." Like they would have called it like 100 miles away.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Do you have any other highlights though?
No? Nope.
No. I mean, I definitely agree with you on the highlights. Like, we joke about Fulci and his eye fetish. We joked about it during Argento and say it's a little Fulci-esque on some of those episodes that we did. But, like, Argento does not hold a candle to Fulci with his eye trauma.
Right.
At all. Yeah, and the practical effects, especially for say 1978 to 1982, wherever this falls into.
Yeah, it's around there somewhere.
It's pretty good. Like, it is astoundingly how good it was. I mean, as cheesy as the shark biting the zombie and the zombie biting the shark was, I loved it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, how many other movies have a zombie fighting a shark that's not like, in a stupid, cheesy, dumb movie?
Like Zombie Shark? Shark?
Yeah, I'm sure that exists. I'm sure there's other
absolutely.
movies that this exists in. I'm just saying, like, this was, I'm not going to say realistic in any way, but at least
this is the first, though, probably.
Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't as ridiculous. It wasn't the focus of the movie.
Right. Yeah, and the bad ending, right? It is a bad ending because the more I think about it, like, zombie movies don't have good endings. They can't. They generally don't.
Well, yeah, if it's a good ending, it's like, oh, hey, we finally found a place that zombies can't get into. That's it. The rest of the world is still screwed, but we as a group found a place they can't get into.
Right. So zombie movies are good for our love of bad endings.
They definitely are.
They easily are. Yeah, those are my highlights. I'll just roll into my low points. I mean, clearly Italian Doc. And his demeanor, like, I'm surprised he just didn't go around and just shoot every patient he had, one after the other.
Yeah, he's like, they're screwed. And he puts a sheet around them, ties a rope around their neck, and then just shoots him in the head.
Like, clears the bed. Next.
Yeah, literally. It's like, this guy's like the worst doctor I've ever seen. I guess that's why he's working on like a Caribbean island all by himself that nobody else can find.
My theory is bullets cure things.
Right. Look at this. He's not moving anymore.
He is cured.
Right.
I'm writing a paper on this. Yeah, and it's funny that they had a mansion on this clearly horror island. I'm like, I feel like every resident of the island was in that hospital.
Yeah, there couldn't have been that many.
No. But enough to have a conquistador graveyard.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, the conquistador is like, dude, a 500-year-old dead guy, I don't care what coffin you put him in, they are dust. there is not even bones to hold together.
And the humid moistness.
They are bones. There's nothing left of that body, and they sure as hell would not have flesh on them.
Correct.
At least they didn't have eyes. They never opened their eyes, so we never saw that they had eyeballs, which would have been even more ridiculous. But the fact that they even had flesh at all,
right?
One of them sitting up, like I said, the guy with the worms in his eyes. That's like the cover of the movie.
Yes, easily.
Yeah.
So let's just roll into your low points then. Obviously, the conquistador.
Well, I mean, that's not really a low point. It's just ridiculous. At this point with this movie, you can't really nitpick stuff like that because it's all ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
But I would say, I mean, the dubbing, right? The dubbing is terrible. I understand. I guess we have to expect it with these kind of movies, but it is distracting. You get used to it fairly quickly, right? You just accept that this is what it is. But even when they're speaking English, and you can see that they're speaking English, there's still tiny changes in the timing, so it doesn't quite look like it's coming out of their mouth. It's just off-putting and odd. I understand this is an Italian filmmaker. Probably a lot of these people were speaking Italian. I get that they had to dub this stuff over. I'm not upset about that. I'm just saying that the dubbing quality was not great. I understand this is 1980 or whatever. It wasn't great to begin with, but it did bother me a bit. Also, that all the women in the movie were nothing but victims.
Oh, absolutely.
Every time they were confronted by a zombie, they literally put their head back and just screamed and stopped doing whatever they were doing. Yes. Every single one of them. And if no one intervened, then the zombie would bite them and eat them, and they would never fight back or never move or run or anything. They would just sit there and scream until they died. or sometimes they would scream like that, and then somebody would step in and save them. Well, a man, obviously, would step in and save them, and they would still be useless afterwards. They were just, screaming, doing nothing.
They're in hysteria.
I'm just saying, but every single woman in the whole movie did the same exact thing. There was like not one even like halfway, like, intelligent, strong woman in this movie. I know it's an older movie, but like they didn't even attempt.
No.
Every movie, I think there's 3 women in this movie. They all just scream and do nothing when they're confronted with the zombie. And it was, again, I guess it's just an old fashioned thing, but it still bothered me. And also the music bothered me. There's only like 2 songs in this movie. And one is like the fun song, and one is like the evil song. The evil song is like this weird kind of like Caribbean, I guess like a voodoo like island music. It's not really bad. It's not really like evil sounding. It just sounds like an island song, right?
It's like the Tiki Lounge.
Right, yeah. It's like that. It's like, Tiki Lounge music. And then there's this song that's like when they're not being attacked at the time, it's like the fun music.
Yes.
But there's literally only 2 songs in the whole movie.
Songs cost money, man.
I guess so. But yeah, that was it. There's just 2. So like, are we having fun or are we being attacked? Because that depends on what we're listening to.
Yeah. That's very accurate to this.
Right.
So why don't we just go into your number of eye injuries out of 10 for this movie?
Now, these movies are very hard to rate, right?
Uh-huh.
Because, I mean, they're fun, but they're also bad.
Yes.
But I don't know if one outweighs the other, and it's like it's very hard to put a number on this. So I'm like just trying to like balance it, I guess. And I'll say 5.5 eye injuries out of 10.
5.5.
Again, I don't think that's an accurate depiction of what I think of the movie, but I have to balance out the things I don't like about it.
Well, being the purveyor of cheese that I am, this like we agree there are ubiquitously bad movies, right?
Yeah.
This isn't, I don't think, purposely cheesy. I don't feel like it's purposely cheesy.
No, they don't. Yeah, they don't have lines that are cheesy on purpose. This is like, these are the kind of movies that cheesy people try to emulate.
Yes.
But they do it on purpose, whereas this movie is doing it by accident.
Correct. So that's why I don't rate stuff like this as low. It's because they are taking
this is much higher than the movies I don't like.
So I know. But for me, I have injuries out of 10, and I will take this with other zombie movies in this era, with this trilogy of movies that we watched as well. I would probably give this a 7. 7. One person is walking away with a complete eyeball out of 4.
Yeah, and again, like, if I would, just would I recommend this movie to other people? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I would. Would I watch this movie again? Yeah. I mean, not all the time. I wouldn't watch it, often, but I would definitely watch it again. But there's a lot of things that I just don't like that I feel like really have to pull it down a bit.
And that's fair.
Like I said, these movies are hard for me to rate because there's 2 completely different columns and I don't know which one to go with.
Right. But I don't think this is like, because this is generally under your threshold of rewatches. I don't think this is a drink while watching type movie, though.
Oh, this movie? Of course it is.
You think so? You think it's better while drinking?
Yes, I absolutely do.
I mean, the last one on this list, yes.
Lots of last one, I don't know if you'll. Well, I don't think you'll catch what's going on even if you're sober. But
now the last one is a bottle of whiskey drinking.
Yes. What? You gotta take an intermission just to kind of get your head around what the hell is happening.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
But and a cold shower, probably.
A little bit. I mean, if you like razor blades on nipples, sure. We'll get to it.
That's the tame part.
It is the tame part. But next up, we do have the Beyond, like I said, our best effort of reviewing these chronologically, the Beyond, which Salem will take over the recap for.
Yeah, now this movie is all over the place. Okay, I'm going to try to get through it as best I can, and I'm probably going to jump back and forth. Sometimes I'm just going to talk through one storyline to the end because you jump back and forth and I'll get lost. I don't know what the hell
I'll just throw this out there right now. It is like if Argento tried making In the Mouth of Madness.
Right. Yeah, something that's pretty accurate. It's like, yeah, there's like things happening where you're like, what is going on?
Yes.
But like, how did we get here? What happened? Those moments happen often.
Drugs.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also it's shot in this weird kind of like art housey style. So where like it's like there's, you know, like we'll get there, but I'll say like the hospital morgue is set up like a modern art piece. They have like this weird, it's like a weird like semicircle, and the bodies are laid out in like a pattern, like almost like a flower pattern.
Yes.
It's bizarre. It is just bizarre. And there's nothing in that room that even looks remotely like a morgue other than the bodies.
We'll get into like that.
Stark white walls. It's very artistic looking.
We'll get into that as one of my low points of what happens in that room.
Yeah. But it's just bizarre imagery. And but anyway, so yeah, if I'm not making sense, it's not just me. It is the movie that does not make sense. Okay, so The Beyond. We start off in the beginning. I believe it says Louisiana in like 1926 or something. 20 whatever.
I thought it was 1931 and it's 50 years later. So I think that's why this is 81. I thought it was...
I'm pretty sure it said 20 something. But
26.
Yeah.
26, yeah. So 55.
Right. So yeah, okay. So yeah, it's 1926 and there's like a big mob, like literally holding torches, like
it's
walking.
A good old-fashioned lynch mob.
Right, yeah, it's like a good old-fashioned lynching. There's a whole bunch, like a mob of people coming in boats and in cars and walking, and they're walking up to this hotel, and everybody's got a torch except for like the leader guy who's got a big length of chain in his hands.
By the way, everything, because it's old-timey, it looks like those crappy Western pictures from Disney World that you took in the Western world. Is like everything's brown. Sepia tone is what they say.
Yes. Yeah, it's filmed in like a sepia tone, black and white.
Yeah.
So there's like this guy like painting or something. I guess he's painting, that he's like sitting in this room, and it cuts between him and then the mob coming into the hotel and then going up the stairs, like literally like 2 by 2 up the stairs with the torches still in the house, in the hotel. There's also cuts to a blonde woman reading a book.
What that book says, I don't know, because it's in Italian.
Yeah, it's EIBON. I don't know what that means, but that's what the cover of the book says. We never get any more information about that book. They mention the book a lot of times, but they never say what the hell the purpose of that book is or what it's supposed to do. But this woman, I guess, is alive in the 20s because she's in the sepia tone, right? But she's not with the painter guy, and she's never like shown with the mob or anything. I don't know what. She does appear later on, so I have to mention her. But like, there's no connection.
It's almost like a flashback scene where she's flashbacked to that time period, but not really there.
Right? Yeah. I don't know what the hell is happening there, but
nope.
So basically, they go into the artists, they grab them, and they're like, "Oh, you won't be doing your horribleness anymore," and
this will stop you. Will keep the town safe.
Right, yeah. So they drag him outside and they like nail his hands to a tree, and they cover him with like hot paint.
I thought hot wax. It seemed, but the hot wax acted like acid. Let's be clear.
Well, it did. Yeah, whatever it was really hot something that was like some form of white. So I don't know if it was like some kind of like a plaster or paint or
White
like
tar.
Yeah, tar. I don't know what it was. I have no idea. Maybe it was supposed to be tar, but it was just black and white. They made it white. I don't know. Whatever it is, he gets like horribly killed by.
He gets whipped with a heavy chain.
Yes, and like big chunks get taken out of his face and his body. He whips him like that multiple times on the way all the way out to the tree.
Yeah,
and then he nails him to the tree, and then they put this hot stuff on him, and that kills him. And then the scene ends.
Yeah, his head's essentially melted.
Right.
Like,
yeah. So he's obviously dead.
Like part of think Indiana Jones wax head melting, but partial of that.
Right. So then we fast forward to whatever 1980 or whatever it is.
Sure.
And there's this woman who somehow inherited this house, even though she doesn't know who it was that gave her the house. But she was like living in New York and like working as like a model or something, but she didn't have any money. So she was very happy that she inherited this house because she really had nowhere else to go. So she comes to this house, and then somehow she has money to like renovate the house. So she's like, overseeing the renovations of this house. And we immediately see that it's kind of haunted because she like waves to this guy that's painting the house, and then he sees the blonde woman from earlier in the movie, that one that was reading a book, who was inside the house staring out the window, and he gets so scared from seeing her and her terrible contacts that he falls off the scaffolding and dies,
which is, they point out, 6 foot deep.
Yeah, and again, they really don't care. No one like reacts to this at all. The only comment they make is the one guy goes, "I don't know how you fall off a 6 foot wide scaffolding."
Yes.
That's it. No one has any sympathy for this poor guy at all.
Well, he's just an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, whatever, moron. Get another painter. Like, that's it. Nobody cares. So yeah, we kind of see that the hotel is, obviously in disarray, but it still looks almost exactly the same as it did in the beginning, right? Now it's just got cobwebs and stuff all over.
In 50 years, that's all that really.
Right.
Mostly that happens.
Right. So yeah, we get introduced to like, the people who I guess were living in the house or like are the caretakers of the house. There's like a dude that's like really sweaty and really creepy, whose name is Arthur. And she catches him doing creepy stuff like multiple times, like within like a 10-minute period, but she still like keeps him around. He was like in her room, like going through a dresser and stuff, and like all this weird, dude was creepy.
I'm looking for keys.
Right, yeah, in her underwear drawer. Like, okay, dude.
Right.
And then there's Martha, who I don't know if a mom, wife, I don't know who she was. She was related to Arthur in some way. And she was kind of like the curmudgeon, right? She was the one that was trying to keep everything together. Anyway, so we see that she's fixing stuff up, and then we get Joe the plumber shows up, who is literally, he shows up with a truck that says Joe's Plumbing, and he gets out, obviously very Italian.
Oh, yeah.
He looks like seriously like a Roman bust. He's like literally has that face. He's got the beard and he's got everything. Looks like someone that would probably be in place in the Roman Empire.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, he comes in, he's like, "Oh, so what's the problem?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, I don't know how long, what kind of a problem we have. Hopefully it won't take you too long. Let me show you." And she goes down in the basement, and the basement is covered in like multiple feet of water.
We have no running water, but water's coming from somewhere.
Right.
I was like, he has a toolbox. I'm like, what's he going to do with it?
Right. And she's like, "How long you think it'll take?" I'm like, "Lady, this is like a year-long job. What are you talking about? One guy? Like, come on." Anyway, so like, yeah, Martha comes up like, "I made you a walkway." And like, literally, there's like a wooden walkway. Like, what is that going to do? He's a plumber. He has to get wet. So anyway, they go, "Okay, yeah, you fix it. We'll see you later." And then he walks down there and he sees a bunch of water coming out of the wall. He goes over to the wall and he starts knocking out the bricks around the wall, and he finds a whole nother like secret area back behind the wall. He goes back behind the wall. He finds another wall with water coming out of it. And this time the water is like acid water that's like eating the stone away.
Yeah.
And he's like, I wonder what's going on in there. So then like a hand comes out of the hole and sticks its fingers in his eyeballs and like scoops him out of his head. Again, this is, the Fulci eye injury scene. Like, so of course it's like very drawn out. Yeah, but literally the fingers just like come out and go right into his head, right into his eyeballs, and just push him out. Like,
yes,
graphically.
Yeah.
So he dies, and then as he dies, eventually they kind of find his body. When they find his body, another body floats up that was down there. Now this body is, we're assuming, the guy who was like whatever tarred or painted or whatever in the 20s
and tarred.
Right, because like he's got this, like the stuff on his face.
Right.
So they take Bob the plumber and this painted face guy to the morgue. To like, I guess to see what's going on. And then we get this bizarre scene of Joe's, the plumber's wife, like leaves her daughter outside, and then she comes in and like dresses the body in the morgue.
Yes.
In like his funeral suit, which you don't do that at the morgue.
Correct.
I do think the best part of this is there's a sign next to the morgue door that says "Do not entry."
Yes.
So this is obviously not written by a English as a first language person.
Don't dead open inside.
Yeah. I was like, "Do not entry." I'm like, yeah, solid sign, buddy. So that whole thing happens, and then like, she gets, I don't know what happens, but I guess like
something happens. We don't see what that.
Well, we don't see what happens, but there's like something that like calls her or like compels her to move to one side of the morgue. And she gets over there, and then she like lays down on the ground, and then a big glass container falls over
of acid.
We're assuming it's acid because it looks like water, but of course when it hits her face, it starts bubbling and smoking and melting her face away.
Yes.
So obviously it's acid. And we get that scene like repeated. I feel like it's repeated like 3 or 4 times. Like we see the same acid melting her face away like 4 times.
Well, in fairness, because what happens next is the very, very ginger daughter is slowly being chased by the pool of blood in her mom's face and the acid.
Right. But I like they show the acid falling on her face, like they repeat it. Like,
yes.
Because then her face is back, and then the acid falls on her face again, and then her face is back, and then it falls on her face again. Like, it repeats it multiple times. But yeah, so the daughter hears this scream. She goes in there. Yeah, she gets chased around by this, like, blood acid sludge. And then she eventually, like, gets out of there, and then it cuts away. It cuts away to the woman who owns the hotel is now driving in a car down, like, a ghost bridge in the middle of nowhere. And then she drives down and she finds the blind woman with the bad contacts that made the guy fall off the scaffolding. She's standing in the middle of the road with a seeing eye dog. And she lets her in the car, and then all of a sudden they're teleported back to her hotel, and they're just like sitting around and talking like they know each other. And I thought I missed something. Like I rewound and I'm like, what happened? What did I miss? Nothing. I didn't miss anything. It's just, this is not explained in any way whatsoever. So then when she gets back into the house, then she starts like giving a little bit of exposition about what's going on. Because like there's like a buzzer that sounds, and they're like, oh, the buzzer's coming from room 36. Room 36 was the room that the painter guy was in. And she's just like, don't ever answer that. Don't ever go in that room. That's where the evil lives or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But, they're talking like they're kind of pals, and she kind of, tells about that. She's also talking about that book that she was reading earlier. Like she can't find it, or she doesn't know what it is, or I don't know. I don't know what the hell was going on with that whole conversation. But eventually she just like leaves. And then we also this happens throughout it, but we get like weird scenes of like the blind lady living in another house, completely different house. And like weird things are happening to her, and she's like foreseeing things going on, but she never interacts with the movie again.
Correct.
I mean, things interact with her. Don't get me wrong. There's a scene that interacts with her later on, but she never interacts with the rest of the characters again. That's it. That's her like thing. So after that point, where she gets into that. Then she gets introduced to the doctor guy. The doctor guy comes to like, I don't remember why he comes to her house. I guess just to find out what happened to Bob the plumber, or sorry, Joe the plumber, I guess.
Yeah.
And so they end up kind of like teaming up to find out like what's up with the house. And like, you know, she mentions that, oh, I was talking to Emily, who's the blonde lady, and he's like, oh yeah, she lives in the house by the crossroads. And he's like, nobody lives in that house. I've lived here forever, and I've never seen anybody in that house. Nobody's lived there for at least 15 years. And she's like, haha, okay. And that's it. That's the only mention. Like, okay, so like, is this lady a ghost, or is, you know, whatever? Like,
they go there and they realize that it's overgrown, that it's like condemned.
Right. Well, he goes by himself. Yeah. He goes by himself, and he does find the book there, that Ibon book. Again, but it's never mentioned what it is or what it does. When he brings the book to her, but she never gives it back to Emily because she never sees Emily again. So basically, you know, they're trying to figure out what to do at this point. The doctor gets called back to the hospital because of the whole acid attack thing. And then she talks to this other guy who like gets real curious about the basement. He's like, oh, there was like another hidden wall in the basement. You know, we got to find the original plans for this house to find out how big it is down there, so we can start to plan. You know, he's like talking, I want a game room. I want a pool table and I want a bar. Like, I don't know who this dude is and why he thinks he needs a game room in her basement, but that's where we're at. So then they go to like the records office to find out, and he goes up. Of course, he has to climb up a ladder to get to the where these plans are, and he opens up the book and he finds the plans for the house, and he finds out that the basement is like way bigger than the hotel is. Like, it looks like a castle. So like it's like at least 3 or 4 times the size that they think it is. And then as he's up there doing that, like, of course he like gets, I don't know what happens to him, but he falls down. And then after he falls down, like all these tarantulas start coming out of the bookshelves
and eat him
slowly. And like, we're talking full on, like, you see, I mean, there are real tarantulas on him for sure, but they're not the ones biting. There's like these fake tarantulas that have like scissor mouths that are literally like cutting chunks out of his nose,
his tongue,
his lips. I mean, it is disturbing. Well, I mean, I don't like tarantulas at all. I'm like, I mean, you can tell the ones biting him are fake, but the real ones were still crawling around in the same scene. Like, it was disturbing. So yeah, he gets slowly like eaten to death by tarantulas. And then we see that the book that he had open to that page, like, magically transforms the basement to go smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until eventually it just disappears and it's just a blank page.
Yeah.
So obviously at this point we're seeing that there's some kind of supernatural stuff going on. So at this point she like, I don't think she ever really finds out that he dies. She just goes like, "Huh, he's not here," and then she goes back home. And then she's, I guess, looking at the book, and somehow she figures out that the house is like somehow like a gateway to hell or something. And she's like, "Oh, that's scary. I need to go find the doctor guy." And so she goes to find the doctor guy, and that's when we get to the hospital, and there's like all the zombies wake up. And so they're like moving around, and of course the doctor has a gun in his office, and they're shooting zombies, and they escape the office. I will say that he shoots a revolver 15 times before he reloads it. And then, well, like I should say, he shoots 15 times before it clicks, like, "Oh, I'm out of ammo." And then he moves to the next room and he's shooting again, and there's no reloading. And he's shooting again. He shoots like another like 9 or 10 times. And then he gets in the elevator, and then he finally pulls bullets out of his pocket to reload the gun. And it is hilarious because the actor obviously does not know anything about guns, as he takes the bullet and he starts sticking it in the barrel of the gun as if that's the way to reload it. Like, this is, you know, the 1700s and he's reloading a musket. But yeah, so then he comes downstairs and he shoots like another 12 rounds out of the revolver. And then he finally decides he's out of ammo and he just throws the revolver at the zombie.
Right.
So they basically get into this like like stairwell, and they go down the stairwell to escape, and they end up somehow teleported back into the house. Okay, sorry, there was a scene that I missed somewhere in there where Emily, the blind lady, was back at her house with her seeing eye dog, and a bunch of like the zombies appear, but they don't move. They just stand there like menacing. And it's Joe the plumber, it's the painted guy, and then some other one. I don't remember who the other one was.
I don't remember.
It doesn't really matter. But anyway, they're just like standing there menacingly, and because she's like blind, she knows they're there, but she doesn't know what they're doing. So she like goes in the corner, and she's like super scared. The zombies are not moving. They're not doing anything, not saying anything, they're not interacting with her in any way. She's just like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. And so then she tells her seeing eye dog, whose name is Dickie, to attack. And so the seeing eye dog like attacks the zombies, which happens off screen. We don't really see that happen. We see him like lunge at him, and then whatever happens off screen, and we just see her being all scared, like, you know, wondering, going, Dickie, where are you? And then Dickie comes back like all covered in blood, like he's okay.
Well, he's a good boy.
Yeah. So then she's petting him, you know, like, oh, okay, we're all okay now. And then the dog just like attacks her and literally just bites chunks out of her and kills her. So I don't know if they're saying like the dog was a zombie, or if like the dog just realized that she was bad too. I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but that's what happens.
It's a great question.
Yeah, Dickie kills everybody, and then somehow none of it matters anyway. So, anyway, so but they're back in the basement of the house, and they follow the road that, you know, Joe the plumber made all the way to the hole in the wall where he got his eyes poked out, and they go there, and they basically get sucked into the hole, and they get pulled into hell.
Blinded by the light.
Yeah, so yeah, it's like they end up in like this white ash plain with like a bunch of dead bodies laying everywhere, which is exact match to like a painting that was in the house. I think that was the painting that the painter guy painted. Yeah. So like that was they're in like his painting, which is apparently hell. It's apparently this is one of the gateways to hell, and then that's the end.
They fade away to nothing.
Yeah, and then that's the end of the movie.
Yes.
So I don't know what the hell the plot of the movie was supposed to be, but it essentially boils down to like lady inherits hotel is haunted. It apparently is the gateway to hell. The zombies come out of hell and attack people, and then they get sucked in and I guess fade away in hell.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
I mean, that's boil it down to, that's what it comes down to. But like trying to explain all this shit that's going on is very hard to do.
Yes. Let's just go into your first thoughts. I don't think you've seen this movie.
No, I haven't seen this movie before. I was watching. There's so many scenes where I was like, wait, did I miss something? Like I would rewind it, like going like, okay, no, I didn't miss anything. Like it literally went from this scene to this scene. Like what is going on? Like I don't know. But then I assumed by the way the design of everything, you know, like the morgue and the hospital and the way that everything was laid out, it was like a very like art house presentation. And at that point I was assuming like, okay, I think we're not getting crucial plot information because it's supposed to be like an artistic vision.
Right.
And not really like a, you know, logical storyline.
Like I said, it's in the mouth of madness.
Right. Yeah. It's like it's not making a lot of sense. We never get answers to like most things that are going on.
No.
So you just gotta kind of ride with it. I mean, that's all you can do is just roll with it because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm watching this, and sometimes when the movies aren't very good, I tend to drift off a little bit.
Mm.
But I then go, oh, I missed something, and rewind as I'm watching it. And I mean, how did I get here? And I rewind it, thinking it's been like maybe 10, 15 minutes, and only been like 1 minute.
Right, yeah. It's just
I'm just going, I didn't miss anything. I felt like I did.
Right. I was doing that too. I didn't even doze off. Nothing. I was totally awake, and I was like, I thought I missed something. I'm like, did I pass out? Did I doze off? Like, what is happening?
Yeah. This is this is really a strange one that I don't think I've ever heard of, really, until we started doing this podcast.
I think I had heard of it. I knew that it was a Fulci movie, but I don't think I even knew the plot. Like
No.
I didn't even know the synopsis. I just heard that it was the name of a Fulci movie, and I think that was about all I knew.
Right, and it's really weird because I know it's like a lot of Argento stuff we tend to have known about it a little bit.
Yeah, like the gist, right?
Right, like yeah. This I watch a lot of lists. I listen to a lot of things, and this never comes up that I recall. Like, so even if I had watched it, like there was no plot for me to have really spoiled, I feel.
Well, that's the odd thing, is that apparently it's like a cult classic. It has been for a while, because like I mean, like this version of The Beyond, like this is the uncut, like true version of the movie. Like it took a long time for them to like find the original cut of this, the not censored and butchered movie, and bring it back. It was actually Tarantino and his Grindhouse Productions, company that did. So like you watch the movie and it literally has the Grindhouse Productions like beginning on it.
Yeah, right, the 70s cheesy jazz type,
theater,
yeah.
Right? Yeah,
theater, yeah.
And that it has that because like he was the one that found the original version and restored it, because I guess it was like you couldn't find it, because like the version that was released like in the US was like I guess heavily censored and like recut, I guess, or something. I don't think it would have made any more sense no matter how you cut it. But yeah, apparently it was a lesser version of the movie that you could find here, and like that was upsetting to Tarantino, and that's why he found the original uncut, uncensored version.
So we benefited by seeing less stuff cut out.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I don't know how it would make any sense either anyway, but
no, because I felt like we had stuff cut out.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, why don't you start with your highlights?
Highlights for this movie. I did, the whole art house thing. Once I like realized that's what we were doing, like I did like it. I did like the design. I did like how everything was kind of like, bizarre and kind of abstract to a point. It is fun. It is like, I do enjoy that. I wish it was like a little bit more telegraphed to you that it, like, this is the direction that we were going in. It just like happens. Like it seems like it's a pretty normal movie up until the morgue, and then it just takes a left turn, and it just keeps getting weirder after that. Like even like Joe the plumber getting killed is like, yeah, okay, that's the standard haunted house type thing to happen,
right?
But like the morgue thing, and then the weird designs, and like things are happening and people aren't reacting to them, and like again. At that point, I think it just takes a turn, but the design of it is good. I did enjoy it. I liked it. Again, in this movie, I mean, the gore and the effects are good.
Yeah.
They're fun. I mean, again, I think he was like experimenting a lot with acid around this time period, because we get many different scenes with like weird different acid. There's acid that eats through the walls. There's acid that like eats through the painter guy's face. There's acid that eats through the mom's face in the morgue. Like it feels like he was doing a lot of experimentation, or at least his special effects guy was doing a lot of experimentation with acid, or at least the appearance of acid at the time. And it's interesting. You don't see that too often, probably because acid is fucking dangerous.
Right.
And you probably shouldn't be playing with it at all.
No.
And of course, Dickie was fantastic. He was just doing his job. I think he realized that that lady was an evil ghost at the end, and so he just like, I need to kill this lady too.
Right. For his own survival, Dickie was a good boy.
Yeah. But I think it was funny because he had a walking, like a seeing eye dog harness on, but he was not trained as a seeing eye dog, as you can plainly see, because he's just like yanking and pulling her all over the place. Like, what are you doing with this super short leash? Like he did not understand what was happening, poor guy. But yeah, so that was fun.
Yeah.
But no, Dickie was great. But yeah, and again, this is a bad ending. This is like a depressing bad ending. So we're like there's nothing good at all. There's not even any hope for survival. They're literally like stuck in some kind of weird abstract hell, and then it's just zoop, done.
Yeah.
But I do like bad endings, so I have to pointed out.
Yeah. I mean, the you're right. The special effects were just, even if they were in America, I'm not saying that. Like, it's fantastic, and just really the attention to the. I mean, yeah, were the giant tarantulas not very good looking if you really looked at them? No, they were awful. But,
yeah, no, the fake ones were very obviously fake. I mean, there's no denying that. But there was also real tarantulas, like in the same shot.
Yes. And like I said, his effect of pulling poor Joe's eyes out.
Right.
I'm like, my goodness, like that is absurdly good. You know what I mean? And you're right. The Art Deco of this is very artistic. I said it, and I think we gave Argento a lot of stuff. Argento clearly, Fulci is more. How do I say this?
I would say
realistic in his design sets. Argento like builds a set. Like he's not, the backdrop isn't like majorly big known buildings or stuff like that. And it's nice to see because like Zombie wasn't very, as far as atmospheric and set design, wasn't really special. This was. Like this was like, I feel Fulci trying to do like Argento scene building.
It definitely, like I said, it feels like he was doing it definitely more of an artistic direction in this one, but it just feels like he didn't get there until like a little bit into the movie.
Right.
Like it didn't start that way. It feels like it like eventually got there and then just kept increasing in volume as it got towards the end.
Yes.
So like it didn't start that way. It just kind of slowly builds up that way.
And if this came out 15 years later, it would have been a Hellraiser movie.
Most likely, yes. Most likely, yes. Yeah, the paint-faced guy would have been, Pinhead in some way.
Right, and they went to hell because of Cenobites.
Right.
Yeah. So I'll roll into my low points. You cannot stress this enough. Go into where people are decomposing in bags as zombies and 50-year-old corpses, and then casually undress your dead husband and dress him. Unattended.
Yeah, like I said, I said the morgue is not where you do that. The morgue ships the body to the funeral home. You do it at the funeral home.
Yes.
Well, and I should say the family members don't do that. I mean, I guess if you're like weird, you could, but it's usually the mortuary people that do that.
Also, you don't take your teenage daughter there too.
Exactly. Yeah. Wait outside. Do not entry. Remember.
Do not entry. Yes. And the weird sludge. I was like kind of chasing her like throughout the morgue was just weird to me. Like it didn't make sense. I understand things.
It looked like somebody had like a very bright red scarf, and they put too much detergent in the washing machine.
Yeah.
And then it overflowed. So it was like all the laundry bubbles soap came out and it was like dyed red from the scarf. That's
because
what it looked like.
From the acid dumped on her face or water, whatever the hell it was, and the mom's blood, there was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I know one of your low points is them never learning. So let's just go into your low points then, because other than that, like I said, do I wish there was more pieces in there to make it a little bit more coherent? Yeah.
Right. Low points. Again, dubbing. Just lose points for that just because it's just off-putting. You get used to it. You don't really notice it after a while, but in the beginning you do really notice it. It is there. And occasionally it's bad enough where it pops up and you're like, dear God, come on. I will say first and foremost, the tarantulas. Not good. Like that's bad. I can't imagine a tarantula crawling on my face. No. Okay. Emily, there's two parts to Emily. One, those contacts were horrible.
Yes.
I felt bad for her eyes because you could plainly see that they were just like discs of whatever plastic or whatever that just like stuck
White
to her
milk
eyeballs.
plastic. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, that's got to be very, very uncomfortable. And they looked bad. They looked very bad. Like, I don't think there's any point to doing that. You could have just like kept her eyes closed or something. I don't know. I guess you got to show her as spooky.
Right.
Oh, that was the other thing I never mentioned. The little girl eventually turned into the new Emily.
Yes.
Towards the end.
The very, very, let's say, she should not go into the sunlight because she'd burn pretty easily.
Right. Yeah. Like, I think it was after Dickie killed Emily. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, because the little girl was in the hospital somehow, she was still there. Even after all the events of the movie happened, she was still there.
Well, because she was partially through the zombie room with the doctor and the main woman. And then she just all of a sudden, like, they turned one corner of the round room and she wasn't there anymore.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that she had the eyes like she was the new Emily, and then she would just poof, gone.
You're right.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Distraction there. But yeah, so the bad context was there. And then, two, who the hell was she?
Oh.
What the hell was the point? Again, she shows up out of nowhere on a ghost bridge. Like, this lady picks her up in her car. She's like having a conversation with her, like they're best pals. That she literally leaves the story and never connects with those characters again. And then the only other scene that she's in is like her getting attacked by the ghosts. Like, Joe the plumber just died. How would she have any connection to Joe the plumber? And why is he in her house standing there menacingly? I don't get it. Like, obviously she's alive, right? Because she's blind and she needs a seeing eye dog to get around. So she's got to be there in some state. Like, the dog was able to kill her. Obviously she was like alive in some way. I don't know. It's never explained where she was and how she was there back in the 20s, or how she's there now, or who she was, what relation. Nothing. There's no explanation to anything. Which is annoying. I mean, I don't need it spelled out for me, but like a hint would be nice. Some kind of background.
Yeah.
I mean, the gun use by the doctor. Again, I know apparently Fulci just doesn't know anything about guns, because this is again from Zombie. They didn't know what they were doing there either. He was shooting a lot. But again, I counted, he seriously shot 15 times with a revolver. A 6-round revolver. He shot 15 times without reloading. Then it went click, click, like, oh, I'm out of bullets. Literally, he moved to the next room and was shooting again without reloading anything. He shot like 9 more times. And then when he did the reload thing, again, stuffing the bullet into the barrel of the gun. And then he shot another like 12 times from that reload. And then he finally ran out and threw the gun at for like, okay.
Well, it clearly they realized, hey, you know, we have squibs to use. You can shoot people instantly, just running past, shoot them in the head. Oh, but this one shoot 3 times in the chest.
Right.
Then realize headshot.
Right. Yeah. It's like, again, like he does it. Like, I get it at first. Like, every zombie movie has to show, like, oh, you shoot him in the chest. Oh, they keep coming. Oh, you shoot him in the chest again. Oh, they keep coming. Oh, you shoot him in the chest again. Oh, they keep coming. You shoot him in the head. Oh, they go straight down. Like, okay. Right. And then he shoots the next one. Bam, right in the head. Oh, it goes straight down. Okay. He got it now. Boom, in the chest again. Boom, in the chest again. Boom, in the chest again. Like, what are you doing? You already know you got to do a headshot. Stop. Boom, hits him in the head. He goes down immediately. Okay, now he understands about the headshots again. Got it. Running and gunning it, like just shooting, pop, 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 like 4 headshots right in a row, right? Yep. Down, 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 down. Gets in another room. Bang in the chest. Bang in the chest. Bang in the chest.
Right.
What are you doing? You already know what you got to do. Like, yeah, he seems like he's a very slow learner, or like he has like a memory of a goldfish. Like, he keeps forgetting.
I mean, like, he's clearly going through hell, so maybe he's losing his memory.
Like, you know? all the shots that he fired with that revolver, if he would have all shot them in the head, they would have been safe, because all the zombies would have been dead. But like, again, every shot that he was taking was like less than 6 feet away. It wasn't like it wouldn't be that hard to do all headshots.
Correct.
Whatever. And then of course the do not entry, I thought was hilarious.
All right, well, I'll go first this time with the number of eye injuries out of 10. This was bizarre. I think this is going to have to be, I don't know if a rewatch will do anything more for me.
I don't think so, man. Again, I probably did a half a rewatch, rewinding and going, what the hell is happening?
Yeah. This, not as good as Zombie. I will go down to a 5.5 eye injuries out of 10. How about you?
This one, like I said, I did like it. I didn't like that there wasn't any like information or background or what the hell was happening, but I can't say I disliked it. I don't think I liked it as much as Zombie, but I'll give it like a 5. I'll give it a 5 eye injuries out of
10. Okay. All right. So this brings us to the last movie, which I don't even know if we can summarize this well enough that we may just do plot points.
Right. Like, okay, well, first and foremost, I'm going to stress this movie is very graphic. I don't know how this movie got past the censors of this time period.
When you mean graphic, you don't mean violence. You mean like full-on shots of.
Oh yeah, I mean we're talking like there's
porn
like
levels.
Yeah,
almost.
There's like literally you feel like you're watching a 70s porn. I mean it's like wow. I mean you're getting everything.
Yes.
And there's like these weird bizarre graphic scenes like the one with the two Puerto Rican guys in the pool hall like literally like giving her a foot job underneath the table. And it's like how long is the scene? It's like 2 minutes long.
It felt
just
like
keeps going. It's like, what is happening? I mean,
it felt like forever.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but there's a lot of scenes like that are just very drawn out and just very, very heavy on the sex. I mean, it is wow. I was like several times I'm like, this movie is graphic.
Yes.
But like, I had my blinds open on my window. I'm like, I shut them because I'm like, people are gonna think I'm watching porn and like in the front room. I mean, not that whatever. I mean, it's my house. I can do what I want, but like, I don't want people watching porn through my window.
Right. So the gist of it, the beginning is they find a hand in New York City. This is New York Ripper. It's very New York City, and we'll throw this out there right now, as we discussed with Basket Case. Times Square is a cesspool.
Well, yeah, early 80s Times Square is like literally like the porn capital of the country.
Yes.
It is like nothing but like strip clubs and apparently in this version of New York, sex clubs where they like have literal like sex teams like having sex on stage live and you pay to sit in a theater and watch it. I don't know if that actually existed back then, but maybe. I don't know. I wasn't there.
So essentially, we have, the guy who is like, I quit a bad day to, stop shooting meth type of mentality. Overhearing, and he hears like just this noisy landlady who very, very Italian. The cop's not. I'm pretty sure he's not. Talk about like, oh yeah, that was the other guy. He talked like a duck. A duck. Yeah, quack, quack, quack. I'm not making up that line. That is the line from the movie.
That is the line from the movie. And that's the shtick of this whole thing is the killer talks like a fucking duck.
Yes.
Like, not just any duck. He talks like Donald Duck.
Right. Yes. So that's why the episode title of this is If It Talks Like a Duck.
Yeah, it is bizarre. But yeah, so that was that. And then we get a long extended scene of like a girl riding her bike through the town. And then she gets on the Staten Island ferry.
Sure she did.
She gets on the Staten Island ferry and she's like waiting to get across and like, she ran her bike into somebody's car, right?
Yes.
And like scratched the side of her car. And the guy was like, what the hell's your problem? Like, as you do, like you scratched my car. Yeah. Like he had every right to say, what the hell's your problem?
And she's
like,
yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, whatever. And she just leaves. And so she gets on the ferry and she sees, oh, that guy's car is here. You know what'll be funny? I'll get in the car and write shit in lipstick on his windshield. Like, ha, so hilarious.
Right.
So anyway, so she's sitting there and then we get like a POV view of the killer, I guess.
With his only left hand.
Yeah. Well, like, what are you doing? Oh, I was just doing this. Isn't that funny? And then she like just moves over in the passenger seat while this guy gets in. She knows it's not this guy's car. She saw the guy who drives it. What is she doing?
And
anyway,
then she proceeds to get eviscerated.
Yeah, so then she tries to open up the other side of the door. The door is too close to the wall on that side, so she can't get out. So after she like wiggles, like tries to wiggle through for a while, the guy like just starts stabbing her, like literally like cutting nipples and cutting chunks of her breast out, and then like starts cutting her stomach open.
Groin to sternum.
Yeah, groin to sternum. And then like literally later on in the morgue, he calls it a treasure trail.
Right.
He's like, oh yeah, he getted her right up the treasure trail. I'm like,
yeah,
wow.
like he's like one of these morticians like eating a sandwich while doing
I
all
was
that.
very surprised he did not have a sandwich on the body that he kept picking up and eating.
But he seemed like he would.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, well, that's the cliche. I don't think the sandwich was there yet, but the guy was.
Oh, absolutely. And like the burnt out cop is like, well,
yeah, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
Then he's like, oh yeah, somebody called for you. Like, who was it? Oh, somebody that sounded like a duck.
Quack, quack, quack.
Yeah. Where did I hear that before?
Flashback. Quack, quack.
But that was it. That was it. Like cut. Like he's not connecting it yet.
Right. Wow. Really? Like,
yeah. And then I think it cuts to the sex show, right?
Well, his the cop, the police, chief of police, is like, don't you make any widespread announcements like that. Like, and that was, I'm looking up, that was Fulci, by the way, as his superior, as chief of police.
Yeah.
Don't make public announcements because, you don't want to tell people there's a serial killer on the loose.
Right.
2 people in New York City.
Well, 2 people in New York City that he hasn't even put together yet. So, like, I think you're safe, dude.
You're right.
But yeah, then I think it cuts to the sex show where there's literally.
I think we get introduction to the doctor, the professor playing chess by himself, talking to himself. It's like, oh, they're going to need me for this. Like he knew the cop was going to come talk to him.
Yeah, and he was playing like I don't know what. Like he's playing chess, right? But what the hell was that?
It was electronic chess, where it maps your moves like with it, like you would a computer. It's like, oh, so it marks it. But he was playing no one.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what the hell was it? Like, obviously, it doesn't have a wireless connection or anything else. In this day and age, it would be a self-contained thing. What the hell was it doing?
We discussed this offline. I'll say it here. My hypothesis was he's trying to be portrayed as the Moriarty to the Sherlock.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get that they're having him play chess so he seems smart. I get that.
Right.
But like, this chess thing that he has, I don't know what it does. What is the purpose of this thing? Like it was like going beep, beep, like all these lights and beeps. And then it was like, but he wasn't moving to pieces.
No.
So I'm like, so what is happening? What are you doing?
No idea. Then we get to the sex show.
Yeah, then there's a sex show. Okay. I'm just excited about the sex show. So the sex show is like literally like 2 people on stage just boning, right? Just going at it. And there's just a theater of people just sitting there like they're bored. Yep. Like all of them literally have like their fist on their cheek, like, oh, this is so boring.
There was a guy in the 4th row who was legit asleep.
Yeah. I'm like,
I made note of that.
Like, why would you pay to go to a sex show and then be bored? Like, isn't that what happened to perverts in New York?
Right.
Anyway, so then there's like this one, like obviously like attractive, like I guess like upper class woman sitting in the front row, right? Dressed like an old timey like detective, with like a fedora and a trench coat.
She's Carmen Sandiego.
Right. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. So like, yeah, they're like boning. The sex show is going on for like it feels like 5 minutes.
Yes.
And then we cut to the high class lady, parting open her
and we see
trench coat. Yeah, we see everything. And she proceeds to start to rub one out in the theater watching the sex show.
And recording it.
And recording and recording it on a tape recorder while everyone else is still bored.
Yes.
Everyone else is still like, oh why did I pay to come in the sex show?
Right.
What is happening? Like, is everybody this like jaded in this version of Times Square? Like, what is going on? She sits down. Another guy sits down. That's kind of like a creepy dude that like watches her, perform. I guess it's performing in some way.
Yes.
And he like and then she like finishes up and she looks over and the guy is gone. And this guy kind of pops up a couple of times later on. We don't get introduced to who he is until later, but he does pop up.
He's missing 2 fingers on his right hand.
Correct. And it is like a very bad prosthetic. It looks like his fingers are like rotten off.
Well, it's like so essentially what the best way to describe it is he has his ring finger and pinky finger down and then like taped it down to his hand to make it look like the fingers are missing, but they're clearly there.
Yeah, but then they put on like some weird latex shit, but like the latex shit was like blue and pink, and it made it look like it was like infected and like they were like
it looked like leprosy.
Yeah, and like again, I was like, it looked like his fingers fell off because they were rotten. Right. I'm like,
yes,
I wouldn't let this thing touch me. What are you, crazy?
Right.
Yeah. So like after that, then the lady who was just in the sex show, of course, she was just in the sex show and she's bored too. So she goes into her, room and the lady's like, "Oh, how was it?" She's like, "Nah, whatever. It was fine." So she goes in her room and she goes to turn on the light. And she's like, "Oh, the light won't turn on."
Damn, whoever.
Yeah,
like,
she's
someone is light bulb theft a big thing in this theater? Maybe.
I guess it's probably just the director guy or the guy who owns the place or something.
Maybe.
So she sits down and she's all like, harumph. I'm very upset. I'm very bored. My sex show wasn't great. And now I don't have a light. So she's just sitting there, and then of course, like, she hears a noise. She goes in the closet, and then the duck talking guy, or I guess person, we don't even know at this point, stabs her with a broken bottle
in her crotch
in the treasure trail. Yeah. and she gets like, gutted, like cut up just like, the other girls did.
Yep.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
And then at this point, I think he finally starts putting together that these are like connected.
Well, because the jaded detective is at his favorite prostitute's place.
Oh, that's
clearly staying the night there, which I would think costs a lot more.
Oh, and I'm sure it does.
And asks him to come, your wife. And then here, this phone call's for you. Weird thing is, he sounds like a duck. What?
Yeah. Yeah, this is the point. I'm like, is that they're really going with this duck thing for the whole movie? But yep,
right,
they sure are.
The duck man goes, "I know where you're at." Quack quack quack. And that is at this moment he realized these are connected.
Yeah. Oh my God, these are connected. He's like, I killed another one. It's like, what the hell?
So the best way to describe it. You said Donald Duck. It's Donald Duck doing a Burgess Meredith penguin from Batman.
Yeah, essentially what it sounds. It's like, what is happening? Like, who decided this voice was scary or like interesting at all? It's just like bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't know. Fulci is a weird dude. So anyway, he's like, oh no, the evil duck knows where my hooker girlfriend lives.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Then we get a scene where the lady who just rubbed one out in the theater goes home and like hands the tape to her husband, who then watches it, listens to it, and he's like obviously like getting off on it. So this is obviously like their thing, right?
Yes.
So then he's like, oh, by the way, I got plans. Don't come back tonight. And she's like,
I wasn't going to.
Yeah, I was good. I had plans anyway. And he
he puts the tape into a drawer of like 50 other tapes.
Right. Yes. It's like, okay, this is obviously like their thing. Like, hey, whatever, some kind of weird swinger thing and whatever you're into, I guess.
Right.
So then we get the girl on the train, who is sitting on the train, and she's like kind of being crept up on by the guy who watched the lady rub one out in the theater.
Suddenly new character.
Yes. Yeah, right. Yeah. So like we saw him in the scene before, but he didn't speak. We didn't like find anything out about
the girl.
Him. Yeah. Oh, the girl is a new character. Yes, it's completely new. Like
halfway through the movie.
Yeah. Like I have no idea who this person is.
Yeah.
So she's like, on the subway, the guy's like creeping on her, the lights go out, and then, he's like, get closer, like whatever. And she's like trying to get away, get to the stop, and she like runs out. And she runs down the street, and then there's like a weird, bizarre scene where like the guy's like acting like a zombie, like dragging his foot, like moaning, and then she looks back and he's not there. And anyway, so, but then she gets attacked. Like somebody pops up with a knife, like quack, 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 like stabbing at her, doing the quacking noise.
Also misses her at one point and hits the brake, breaking the knife.
Yeah, breaking the knife. But yeah, he cuts her a couple of times, but nothing fatal. But still like bad. But yeah, stabs the wall and breaks the knife, and then she runs into the building, and then we're again enter Fulci's art house weird world. So where she's like, all of a sudden she's in a movie theater and she's watching a movie, and then like hands start coming out from like under the seat, like trying to grab her in the crotch or something. I don't know what is happening there.
And then enter a nude person.
Yeah, and then enter this other person who you're like, okay, what is this? Like, and then this person is like trying to kill her, and she's like, oh no, what's happening? And then she wakes up and she's in a hospital. Yeah, it was all a dream. And then the person who is trying to kill her in her dream comes in, and there's like a scene where she's like, oh, like it looks like she's scared, and then she goes, oh, it's my boyfriend.
Yay.
Like, I love you so much. And it was their dialogue between them is fucking sickening.
Yes.
It's like, just shut up.
To the point that when she's finally at his house later, the dialogue is even worse.
Yeah, she's like, I feel so safe and protected when I'm with you. I mean, it's literally like that bad. Like, wow, who wrote this?
My mind is strong, but my body's not. You'll get there. You need to have both what you do. I don't think it's explicitly said what she does, but she's supposed to be very strong and very smart.
I don't know. I don't know what the hell.
I don't know.
I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. So the cop is like trying to ask her questions, and they're all like, she's hysterical. She's not making any sense. She's telling us all these dream things, whatever.
And the guy was missing two fingers on his right hand.
Yeah, she's used to it. But she did tell him about the guy who was in, that she saw before. She's assuming that's the guy that attacked her, because that was the guy that she saw right before. And then, of course, we saw him in another scene where another murder happens, and now we're like, yeah, that's the guy.
Right. But we also have to point out that the mortician said this is clearly done by a left-handed individual.
Yes.
So, a Moriarty.
Right. So, yeah, right? So it makes sense. He's missing two fingers in his right hand. Even though they're the two weakest fingers, it doesn't matter. He can still use that hand. Whatever. So then we find out that upper class, swinger lady is basically had made an appointment to bone this dude with missing the fingers on his hand.
Because he's a gigolo.
Yeah, because he's a gigolo. So they I guess, do their thing. I mean, that's another long, weird.
First she meets up. She, for some reason, goes into the pool hall. And gets toe banged.
Yeah, I was trying to push that out. But yeah, so the scene that we described earlier, she goes into the pool hall, and she's all just kind of, I don't know. I don't know what's going on here, but essentially, two Puerto Rican dudes sit down, and they're all like, you want it, don't you? They say, like you said, toe bangs her. And then right when she's about to climax, he tosses the table over, and they all start laughing at her. Right. What?
Once
what
again,
are you doing?
We see the entirety of the toe bang
right
under the table.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's oh man, this movie's just graphic. It is everything we're describing is you full on see it.
Yes.
There's full on bush, full on toe banging. I mean, full on. I mean, it's she's rubbing one out, and she's for real rubbing one out, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, so after that, apparently then she was like, oh, that didn't work out. I need to go pay for it. So then she goes to Gigolo Man with the two missing fingers. And so they do the whole thing. Their whole deal. She gets tied up to the bed, and he's rubbing on her with his weird leprosy fingers, which is disturbing.
Get that leprosy off of me.
It's these things look like they're diseased. What are you doing? So they bang it out, and then she's still tied to the bed, and she wakes up a little later where he's sleeping next to her. And the radio is on. And they basically
is smooth jazz New York.
Yeah.
Watch out, all those ladies out there, for the guy missing two fingers from his right hand.
Yeah. Right. And she's like, oh no, that's the guy. Like, this is the killer guy. I need to get out of here. So she like chews her way through her ropes.
At least she didn't Gerald Games herself on
right. Yeah. So she chews her way through the ropes. She gets her, overcoat and fedora on and runs out the door. And then tries to go to the emergency exit and then can't get out that way. And then like sneaks past the door going the other way. The guy doesn't get up. He's just sleeping. And then she's like running down the hall, like trying to, it's like the Shining hallway. It's like, it never ends. Like keeps turning down corners. She goes all the way down this one, like J-shaped loop corner. And there's a freaking mirror at the end of it. Like, this is a fun house. And then she turns around and she goes to go back. And then she goes, quack, 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 quack. The guy comes with a knife and just starts quacking and stabbing, quacking and stabbing, quacking and stabbing. And she dies. So like, again, you assume this character was like a main character because this is like the third major scene that she was in. Nope.
She did.
She's just gone out of the movie now.
She has more scenes than the actual main movie.
Right. Right. And then, so then at this point they're like, okay, so now we somehow have confirmation that the two-fingered guy was the guy who did it because like the hotel clerk said that was him. So now they know who he is. They got his name. It's like, I forget. They said he was Greek and he had a Greek name. I don't remember what his name was.
This is Gigolo, though.
Yeah. So they go to his house and they're like, and they know he's a bad guy because when they went through his stuff, they found a bowl that was shaped like a penis.
And naked pictures.
And naked pictures, yes. Which is very horrible. And needles. So he's like,
hidden under his like pillow.
Yeah, literally. Who keeps freaking needles under their pillow? Like if you come home late at night, like I just want to go to bed. Oh, got needles in my hands.
Was that his wife going? You can't come in here.
I don't know.
This is my house.
Wife, mom, roommate, sister. Who knows?
No idea.
Who knows? Nobody has any idea. He's got naked pictures of himself on the wall. So like, I don't know who she could have been. Because that's weird.
Right, and the main cop's like, listen, doll, we can do what we want.
But like his bed in that apartment was like a little like single cot. Yeah. So like that wasn't like a shared bed with this woman. I don't know. Again, who knows? She's never mentioned again, but doesn't matter. Nope. So like, oh, we got to find this guy, and then it like cuts. So like what? 2 weeks later, and they find his body on the beach.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, yeah, he's been dead for 8 days. Like, wait, what? He was just alive. So, like, yeah, there's a time cut that they don't tell us about.
We have no idea there's a time cut.
Right.
Oh, by the way, the professor is profiling this guy for the cop. And once again, I'd call a Moriarty scene is like, oh, he picks up a magazine full of naked guys. Therefore, he's gay, therefore not the killer. They very, very lead it up to hit the professor being the Moriarty of this movie.
Yeah, I remember the scene of him buying gay porn, but I didn't really see anything odd about it. I'm just like, okay, he's gay. Why do we care that he's gay? What does that matter? I guess I didn't feel like they were pointing towards him as a suspect at that point, but maybe that was just me.
Well, because he always disappeared and had to go on long walks by himself. And then when he was going on these long walks, these attacks happened.
Oh, I just figured he was too annoying. He wasn't going to be
that too. He was, if you want a definition of smug professor, it's him.
Right. Right.
Imagine Peck from Ghostbusters as professor, and that's who you got.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So like, yeah, so that dude gets killed. And then they basically like set up a phone sting to like, because he keeps calling the detective and like bragging about his kills.
I killed her.
I got another one. So they basically set up like, an old school 1980 phone, tracing thing, which is, was that Black Christmas that they did that in?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like another scene of that where we get to watch a lot of click, 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 click. All these things are clicking and moving around, and like, the old school phone systems where it takes like 10 minutes to track somebody down.
Yeah.
So they're tracking him down, and he's bragging about his kills and whatever, and they track him down to this like phone booth on the beach or in the harbor, and they go there, and it's just the phone is off the hook, and it's a walkie-talkie. Like, well,
Right.
you thought I'd be there?
Moriarty.
Right. Yeah. So they're like, oh, okay, so it's, this person, now we have to try to figure out what's going on.
Well, no, because you're like, oh, detective, you like your lady.
Yeah. And so then he kills.
You'll never get to her in time.
Right. And then he kills his hooker, the cop's hooker.
Very graphically.
Very, very graphically. Like, at first, I thought it was the other girl.
Right?
That's what I thought, because they look like identical.
Yes.
And I was like, and I didn't understand it, like, oh, that's his hooker friend. I was like, oh, that's who that was. I seriously thought it was the other girl that got killed. Like, I didn't even think about it. Because she's only in one other scene. So, like, I guess I didn't put it together. Because we haven't seen her in, like, an hour at this point.
If you want razor blades, 2 nipples, this is your scene.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It is graphic, yes. And then so that happens, and then he I gotta catch him. So then the I guess the professor guy starts to suspect the girl,
right,
that was stabbed, because it was like, oh, she has
lived.
She lived, and she has some kind of like split personality thing, that she's the one that's doing it, but she doesn't realize she's doing it, or something like that.
Right.
So he goes over there to like interview her, and when he's going over there to interview her, there's like, weird stuff happening. She does at some point, because she's living with the boyfriend, she does at some point, like search his house, and he
dare to venture upstairs.
Yeah. It's like limping because she was like stabbed multiple times, which like there's like 3 big, huge flights of stairs in this apartment in New York.
Yeah.
And like all the way at the very top is like this weird loft, like child's room.
All room.
Yeah. And like there's just a bunch of like dolls and kid stuff in there. And then like she looks in a drawer, and there's like hospital bill.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yep.
And when I say it now, you're going to be like, oh, that gets put together. But at the time when you see it in the movie, it doesn't make sense at all. There's like a girl that they show in the hospital that's like has had one of her arms amputated, and is obviously like very sick, like under like plastic in her bed, like she's quarantined
in a bubble. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's like a nurse like reading her a story, and she's obviously like very sad. And then there's a scene with the cop like saying like, oh, what's up with this kid? And they're like, oh yeah, the one parent is in Brazil, and the other parent we don't see. They just send us money.
Yeah.
And that's it. They're like, so again, I didn't put together that that's what that hospital bill meant. Because it was, again, those 2 scenes were like, what, at least 20 minutes apart.
Well, okay, because the first time she goes up there, the 8-finger guy is still alive and does attack her. He's like, oh, she's going to pin me. And they stop him, and he goes away, and her boyfriend is knocked down the stairs.
Right.
Then when we get these revelations of everything else after the prostitute has been killed, and that's when the 8-finger guy is dead. Like, oh, okay, now this is where I think it's her. This is where they go back.
Right. Yeah. So then, the boyfriend, like, she goes up to check it out again, and the boyfriend comes home early.
I told you not to go up there.
Yeah. So they have a phone conversation, and you hear the duck talking, but it's not shown who is doing the duck talking.
Correct.
And at this point in time, to where like what the detective and the professor are saying, we think it's her.
Right. And she knows the block of knives, and she sees that a knife is broken, because we have the flashback to the knife being broken on the brick.
Right.
So once again, we don't know what the major twist is.
Right. Yeah. So then, we get that whole thing, and then there's just, well, yeah, I mean, I guess, was there like a finale twist?
Yeah, it was her boyfriend.
Well, I know that. I'm just saying, was it like presented in a different way, or did we just find out right after that it was the boyfriend?
We found right after.
Yeah. So that girl was his daughter. That, I guess, like, he was married, and like the wife left to go to Brazil and didn't want anything to do with the kid. And so he was paying for the kid to be, in the hospital. And I guess she liked when he talked in the duck voice. And so somehow he was killing women that were like sexually active and mature, because he was upset. Yeah, because his daughter would never get to that.
she'd never be able to be a beautiful woman.
Right. So he was killing beautiful, sexually active women because he was upset that his daughter would never be one.
Right.
Which
that's
is
what caused the snap.
Bizarre, right? But that's what he was doing, and that's why he talked like a duck. Is because the daughter liked when he talked like a duck. So whenever he talked to her, he talked like a duck.
And the movie ends with the daughter going, "Daddy, Daddy,"
and then
Daddy?
Like dying. Like, it's extremely depressing of an ending. Movie. But yeah, that's how it ends.
Yes. I know I've never seen this movie before.
No, I've never seen it before either.
This was like, okay, I'll compare him once again to Argento. I feel like this was his Tenebra. His version of Tenebra.
Okay. I mean, I was going to say a Fulci version of Tenebra, sure.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant. A Fulci version of Argento's Tenebra.
Right.
Where, you know, the killer was something that we introduced like the last quarter of the movie. Like there was no indication.
Right. Well, yeah.
We meet him.
Right. Like she gets attacked in the subway. She has the dream about him. He shows up and says, "Oh, everything's okay." And then she goes home with him. And really, we don't see him again for a while.
Right.
And then it's like weeks later or whatever. And then that's when it's like she decides to go search the house.
Right. If you were very studious and watch this movie, there is zero clues that's him.
Right. Yeah, no, there's
zero.
Not. The only clue is that when she has the dream of the murderer being him, she was correct. But again, It's heavily implied that it was just a dream and that she was hysterical.
Yes, as she was, because she's a woman.
Right.
In one of these movies. So, I mean, we discussed this being very graphic and very porno-like. I mean, I don't know, do you watch them in these order?
No.
Okay.
I watched Zombie, then New York Ripper, then The Beyond.
Okay, so, but having in this order, I mean, what are your thoughts on this as a whole, other than it being, you know, very few steps away from being a complete porn?
Yeah, like I said, like if you watch 70s porn, like it was like almost identical. I just didn't go that one step further. You know what I mean? But it was very close to it.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, I said this to myself several times. I'm like, wow, this is graphic.
Yes.
like wow. It's just, it's out there. I was just kind of shocked that this like made it past the censors, or maybe it didn't. I don't know, but like I don't know how this like ended up, especially in that time period, because there's a lot of censorship and, you know, X ratings and stuff being thrown around. Like I'm sure this movie would have gotten an X rating. There's no way it did.
Definitely a video nasty.
Yeah,
hands down.
Well, yeah, obviously. I don't know how this got through, or maybe it didn't. I don't know. Maybe this is another one like The Beyond where they had to like save it later, and we're just watching it now because we can. I don't know.
Well, I'm looking at it. It's a giallo movie.
Well, yeah, that's just an Italian mystery. Yeah,
right. But for being a mystery, like they got it right. He is a ripper. Like he.
Yeah, he likes to slice up the treasure trail, as he says.
Oh, I'm looking it up. It was banned in the United Kingdom until 2002. So
UK, I'm not surprised because they banned all kinds of shit. I'm just surprised it wasn't censored in the US.
Yeah.
Because like The Beyond was. And it's nowhere near as graphic as this.
It took 2 years for it to be released in the US.
Wow.
So it starts to make a little bit more sense.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's just, it's a lot. There's a lot going on. Don't watch this with your parents. Don't watch it with your children unless you want to have a lot of weird conversations afterward.
Yes. I know the wife started watching some of the other ones. Like she was confused by The Beyond, and I started watching The Ripper, and I go, you know, this is going to be safe for when there's no one else in the house, just because, it's very, like the sexual content. I don't think I've ever seen this high in a horror movie or murder mystery.
Oh, like, yeah, for sure. I mean, it is, yeah. There's a lot. I mean, yeah, it's like half the movie.
Right. And I guess I get it because it's supposed to be seedy New York in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, it's a product 80s. Of its time. Right, for sure.
But like, it's so weird. Like, because obviously we discussed, 70s movies that we did, like Last House on the Left and I Spit Your Raven. Those were rough to watch. But graphically, this was more.
Well, yeah, but it was like most of the sexual parts are at least like consensual.
Right.
It's just sex. It's not like, whereas like some of those other movies, it's like, rape is different to watch than consensual. Consensual is like, wow, this is graphic, but there's nothing wrong happening. It's a natural enough thing. Yeah. Whereas you're watching rape, like, this is disturbing. Like, I don't want to watch this because this is bad. So it's not like bad, like, obviously like assault happening. It's just graphic.
I mean, you could argue the pool hall was assault.
I mean, again, it was consensual. Like she was into it. Yeah. I mean, was she embarrassed about it? Were they jerks about it? Sure, yeah. But it was consensual while it was happening.
All right. Let's get into highlights.
All right.
Surprisingly, was there an eyeball thing?
I'm pretty sure there was.
I would think so, but for some reason in my head, I can't picture it.
I don't know.
And like it wasn't gory by any stretch of the imagination in comparison to zombies. So it was more realistic violence, I would say. So it doesn't have to be as graphic. Yeah, were people being eviscerated? Yes. Were people being eviscerated from their groin? Yes. However, it still seemed more, I would say realistic is a better word. Like more everyday violence. And I think it did well without being, it didn't have to be over the top to get that message across.
Well, yeah, basically there's no supernatural elements to it.
Right.
It's just two humans killing each other.
Right. And for what it was, I mean, you can see two humans killing each other and be very graphic and like over the top.
Right.
Like, there was never anyone sitting there just like holding their necessarily guts in, which we know that he has the ability to do from his previous two movies that we watched.
Right.
And I'd say the cop, I felt like he really didn't want to be there as a cop. He seemed very burnt out.
To be fair, he's a homicide cop in New York. I'm pretty sure. That's a rough job.
Well, I'm saying it came off that way. Like, I don't think the acting was, other than the duck voice, I don't think the acting was bad.
No, the acting was all right. I mean, the duck was ridiculous.
Yes.
Again, that gag is used a lot. Like, a lot.
Right. And I think for it being not a set piece, realistically, it was shot in New York, and it felt like New York.
I wonder if this and Basket Case were filmed at like the same time.
I mean, it really felt like you could be in the Basket Case world, quite honestly. But no, I mean, besides that, like it was interesting murder mystery. I don't think everything was there to have you solve the murder, but it's still an intriguing murder mystery nonetheless. I mean, what are your highlights?
I thought it was a good mystery. I don't think it necessarily needs to like hand it to you, as long as it's not something, that's like ridiculous or out of nowhere, or something that is like stupid predictable to like you guess it like immediate. Right. Those are the ones I don't like. But this one, it was a good mystery. It was fun. Like you genuinely like, who the hell is doing it? Like obviously it's going to be one of the characters we've seen. Which one is it?
Right.
But that was fun. Again, I mean, the same thing with the gore is fun. And it does a good job. Like I said, there's pretty graphic stuff with nipples and, and slicing and graphic deaths and stuff. But it's interesting. It's well done. It's fun. It's the bright red blood spraying everywhere.
And like I said, it was a good mystery. It was cat and mouse.
Right.
It was aspects of it were Zodiac killer like, where they're playing with the cops.
Yeah, exactly. I love those old timey like technology. Like, oh, we're cracking down and using high technology, and then it's like they're using phone traces with like click, click, click.
Right.
Really, this is high technology, man. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So that stuff is great. The high tech chess was amazing. Like, I don't know what the point of this thing is. I don't know what it does. I don't know how it works. It has pieces on it.
Yep.
It's like obviously you can move the pieces around, but he never does.
No.
Just beep beep and all these lights and stuff going off. He never moves nothing. Never does anything. I don't know. I have no idea what. I would love to know what that thing is.
Yeah.
But anyway, I love seeing the old Times Square. I love seeing that. It's just so bizarre that like everybody knows Times Square now, right? Like
yes.
They got like New Year's Eve there, like every freaking parade and stuff is there. Like everybody, it's like the most generically like sanitized place, right?
Product placement place, yeah.
Right. It's like, there's nothing but billboards everywhere. It's like the celebration of capitalism in the United States. It's like centered on that little square, right?
Yes.
And then you go back in time, to the 80s, and it was like literally porn theaters, strip clubs, triple X stuff, hookers roaming all the streets and stuff. It's like, it's crazy to me to think that it made that big of a change in just like, 20 years?
This is a very short time.
Yeah, it's
between
nuts.
The 80s and 90s, it changed drastically.
Right, it's nuts. It's crazy, but I love seeing that old time Times Square. I'm sure it was not great for all the people that lived around there and shit, but like,
no.
I just love seeing that change, that switch.
Yeah.
And also the one thing I did like about this movie is that the woman was allowed to also be like a pervert too.
Which is rare,
especially in this time period. Like they always show like dudes that have like their kinks and their things, and the women are just like there to like let it happen to them. But like this one, like the lady, I was obviously had her own kinks and was into her own stuff, and she wasn't shamed for doing it. I mean, other than the Puerto Rican guys, but they were just jerks. But like everybody else was like into it. She was just doing her thing, and her husband had her, I guess, weird swinging relationship or whatever the hell it was. And they were happy, and they were not judged for it, which is rare.
Correct.
But yeah, it was, again, it was interesting to see that, she was allowed to be, her own, sexual being with her own kinks and stuff, and, living her own life.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, we'll get into the low points. Clearly, the duck voice.
What?
I know.
Yeah, fucking duck voice is ridiculous. It is impossible not to like laugh when he starts talking. Even though he's saying horrible shit, it doesn't matter. It's so stupid.
Yes. And I don't know if that was the point. Like, was it being satirical? Was it playing on the Zodiac killer with the cat and mouse, or was he just thought that was like an interesting twist that sucked?
I don't know. I was like trying to think. I was like, was there like a time where people thought like ducks were like freaky or something? Like I don't know. I had no idea. You could have literally done any kind of like fake voice or even just a normal person's voice, and I think you would have got the same thing across. The duck voice was just like goofy in a movie that's not goofy at all. It's very strange. I don't know who made that decision.
And it's weird is that they don't even, that's not like the person's real voice. Like he was putting on the show. Like it'd be different if it was like, this is someone's actual voice versus doing a voice.
Right.
What other low points do you have? I mean, the duck thing is a huge thing to get over.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the dubbing and the fucking duck voice. God, that love story between the killer, who we find out at the end is the killer, and that girl. I mean, that is the most saccharine, ridiculous, fucking like make you puke fucking love story.
Yes.
Like, oh, thank you for letting me come stay at your house. I feel so, safe and protected when I'm with you. I know nothing bad will happen when you're with me. Like, oh my fucking God. Just like stab me. Like, where's the duck guy to stab me? Like, this is fucking stupid. Like, shut up.
And she's like, I always wanted to stay here.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. It's like, come on, lady. Like, what is happening here? I mean, maybe she was just high on a lot of like fucking pain meds or something.
I can only assume.
Holy shit, dude! It was painful to watch.
Yes.
The whole fucking daughter storyline, just completely unnecessary and just so depressing. The poor girl is sitting there like her own parents won't even visit her when she's dying in the hospital.
Yes.
And the only person who cares is like a nurse who like reads her stories while she like stares off into space having an existential crisis.
Yeah.
Like, wow. It's just very, and then the end of the movie is her like crying out for her daddy and then dying. Like, wow, man.
I mean, maybe Johnny Eight Fingers got to her and rubbed his leprosy on her. I
don't know, man. I don't know. But yeah, she was just like had an amputated arm in the hospital. I don't know what was going on with her. They never said what was wrong with her. They just said, oh, she's sick, she's dying.
No. I mean, do you consider a bad ending or just a depressing ending?
It's just depressing. I mean, it's a lot of people died. They did catch the guy at the end, but I mean, he killed a lot of people first. But yeah, I mean, but I mean, the little girl, I think, loses out more than everybody else does.
All right.
Like, wow.
Yeah. Any other little points?
Nope.
Okay. Other than the horrible, we discussed the prosthetic being used to hide his two fingers was just awful.
With his weird leprosy fingers.
Right. Like if he was a zombie, okay. He's not.
Right.
You got that zombie blue left? Yeah, why?
Yeah, it's like, oh, we can't find a prosthetic hand. Here, use this zombie hand. Okay.
Right. No, that's about my low points too. Like that voice really dragged the movie down.
Yeah, it did.
It really
was distracting in every scene.
Yes. Like you could it made itself not seem serious, as you said. It's hard not to laugh when it talks.
Right. Well, again, there's like murders happening. Like people are getting stabbed and screaming and blood spraying, and he's going quack 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 quack. It's like, right. What the fuck kind of bizarre shit is this?
Yeah. All right. So how many eye injuries out of 10 would you give this one?
Oh man, this one is rough because it is like it's not a bad mystery. It does make me laugh a lot. I mean, there's a lot of bizarre, weird shit happening in it, but I would have to say I probably give it like 5.75 eye injuries out of 10. Yes.
Wow. For you. This episode.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know if I could watch it again. Like, I feel like I could watch The Beyond again. I don't feel like I could watch this again.
No?
No. I'm going 5. 5 eye injuries out of 10. Like, I don't know if it's because I finished this and I immediately started watching Contraband. I'm just like, I just see just like within 3 movies that just dip downward. Oh man. All right. Anything else to say on your first Fulci one? We've done what, 3 Argentos at this point? Or 2 Argentos?
I think just 2.
Just 2? Seems like we did 3.
Well, I think we have a third one planned at some point.
Well, yeah, you're right. We only did 2. We have the Animal Trilogy and the rest of them. Man, we only did 2 Argento.
Yeah.
All right. Do you think we'll do another Fulci one? If we do a little bit more research on horror ones?
Yeah,
he's done other ones.
Yeah, no, yeah, well, because I was watching him on Shudder, and like when I searched for Lucio Fulci on Shudder, there's at least 3 other movies there.
Cat in the Brain.
There's the Manhattan. What is it? Manhattan Baby.
Yeah,
and then Demonia.
Yes. But we did watch a Fulci previously from one of our very first episodes, our second episode,
the
Black Cat.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, it was an interesting episode to say the least. Stuff that I had never seen, that I knew a little bit about. I knew about Zombie. You had seen it. Do you feel as good as about Fulci as we did after our first thing of Argento? That's really the question.
No, I mean, I'm not upset that I watched them. They are interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, my scores are lower, but again, there's a lot of like negative things that pull it down. But like, I genuinely did enjoy these movies. They're just like, again, the technical faults bring my scores down. But are they something I would rewatch at some point? Yeah, I probably would. Like I said, I don't think they're bad. I just think that again, there's a lot of technical things going against it, so I can't give it high marks. I can't live with myself if I did.
So overall, you're glad we went Italian again?
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm glad I watched these, but I wouldn't rate them as high as Argento.
No. All right. Well, so going into next recording, was this footage meant to be found? Is analog better than digital? Answer is yes. Why do so many movies use the shaky cam and have actors hold the camera? Is there any breadth in this style after the Blair Witch Project? We are talking found footage. We have so many to get through. So join us as we strain our heads and our eyes to the first part of the found footage world that is not part of the VHS franchise. Yes, we've watched a couple found footage with the VHS franchise, with the taking of Deborah Morgan, right? That was found footage.
No,
I don't think
so.
One of the
oh yeah, no, yeah. I was thinking of the other one. I was thinking of the one with the morgue.
Yeah. So we will be looking at the Borderlands, or also known as, what was it? The Final
Prayer.
The Final Prayer, Butterfly Kisses, and the Poughkeepsie tapes. We're pulling these from our list, and we're trying to make sure that when we do found footage, as there's, we have a pretty good sized list to pick from. We're going to try to group these together in things that maybe make sense without giving us too much of spoilers before we watch these, because I haven't seen a single one of these of the next 3.
Yeah, I haven't either. But yeah, I mean, yeah, most of the ones in the found footage genre have like multiple sequels. So like a lot of those will probably have their own episodes eventually.
Correct. Yeah, when we get to Wreck, there's 4. We found out before this, there's 4 of them, and then Quarantine and its sequel.
Right.
Yeah, and we'll go down there when we get to it. So remember, we watch bad movies, so you don't have to. And this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.
Good night.